Well, so much for the height.
Yeah.
I think there's a
Oh, you
lever.
didn't try to make it do it? It just did it?
Just saying.
Yeah, there's a lever. on it.
All right.
I think that-
One this one. I would over here.
I thought. I was that.
Yeah.
Huh?
Okay, George.
Last meeting. I thought I-
It keeps finding its way over here.
I hate that.
I like this chair.
This,
Fell over the cushion.
I don't think we should have booby trap chairs.
I keep moving.
Would this one be more comfortable? Yeah, we can find another business going out of business. Get their chairs.
There was something you're missing from.
There weren't there quite a few of them. I think they have them in there or something.
Hey, John. Yeah. Man, a couple of down.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh. So I'll call this meeting of the South Thompson Select Board and. Meeting for budget review with the budget committee to order at 4:02. 14th. And pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Harry, do we have any adjustments to the select board meeting?
No.
We do not need to deal with that letter,
No.
correct? Regarding the,
Correct.
And elected budget committee chair. Chair, is this something you normally handle? If I recall, you call for nomination?
No, you usually do.
Oh, okay. So, as chair of the select board, I'll call for, do we have a forum? Yeah, yes, we do. I'll call for, nominations for chair of the budget committee.
I nominate Walter.
Are there any other nominations?
For your fan club.
Yeah, one of you better thinking about that, the torch being passed next year, though.
We're always secretary, so.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all of us in favor of Walter as chair, of the budget committee? I think it's landslide Walter again. So Walter, I guess I'll turn that over to you for election of a committee chair. I can't remember. Is that how we normally do it? Is our secretary, I mean?
Right. Kate
So
and I would
I
like to.
nominate,
No, wait. Kate and I would like to volunteer to be co-secretary.
That's what I was gonna do.
Oh, okay, but who knew?
I nominate Sandra and Kate as co-secretaries.
Second. Oh, no, we have a quorum. We better vote first.
Yeah, you know, it's
You have a
for. No, it's not
Any,
mine.
any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
So if I may. Briefly, I think we'd like to do just a little bit of an overview, and I think Jeff's gonna handle that, but. Before we begin. You may discuss some glitches here. We've had a few issues in the town office with changing town administrator. Terry stepped up again, and she went in the hospital. She's been working part-time. She took this, trying to put this over when it was sort of halfway done. And she says in retrospect, she would have been better off to start over again, but, because it's hard to pick stuff up in the middle of it, so. I just would like to acknowledge Terry's hard work and if there's some glitches in here, don't be too picky.
It's not her fault. It's not her fault.
Well, it's really not anyone's fault. So, Jeff, do you wanna give it a little?
Yeah, I'll give a brief one. I was just looking to see what we did. We used 2.5 for COLA, right?
Well, I don't think we should close that.
Pardon?
I don't think we should close that.
People think it's a closed
Yeah,
meeting.
we're in a public open meeting
okay.
and.
Can you leave it just slightly open so it's a little
Yeah,
less noisy?
sure.
Yeah,
We can also ask them to
be
keep
quiet.
it quiet.
Now I guess so.
Yeah. I'll go ask them if they can. Go ahead, Jeff. I'll see if I can.
So for the most part, increases in this are direct result of the 2.5% increase that we're giving almost everybody across the board. And that's based on the same COLA calculations that they use for Social Security, military, and just about everybody else in the federal government. There are a couple of minor exceptions to that, but we had those department heads come in and talk to us, and there were some. It was more a matter of balancing, so some of the pays don't show that it might be more or less than 2.5 to balance out some of the jobs.
Can I make a suggestion going forward? That you look at the main revenue forecasting report, which twice a year does a forward-going projection of CPI, which is more relevant to people in Maine than the Social Security, because that only applies to Social Security recipients.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had this discussion, I think, before. There's two ways to do the pay increases that are based on keeping everything equal. And one is you anticipate what the future is gonna be and you try to make the increase based on the future. The other is you base it on the past. So the COLA that we're using in it, the Social Security and military and everybody else uses, is a COLA calculation of actual increases in the cost of living over the last 12 months. Having said that, I think the ideal would be to get to a point where we're projecting so that we're paying them, we're giving in next year's budget what will make up for what's anticipated to be the increase next year. The problem with that is that we've been doing it from the past so long. To do that, we would have to do it in the past and do it in the future, a double for that first year. To get caught up and then to go forward. And the other thing is that COLAs are based on historical information. And those are just projections and they may be high, low, and so maybe. But anyway, we have thought about that, we've talked about it. But I don't think this is the budget for us to do a double increase.
No, I would
basically.
agree with that.
But having said that, the budget is not as horrendous as I was afraid it was gonna be. We're putting money into the front office, we're putting money into roads. And the other big thing that we're putting money into is the stump dump that doesn't take any stumps. And so you'll see some numbers in there. One thing we don't have baked into the numbers yet is the repayment, the beginning of the repayment for the fire truck, new fire truck, which we should be getting soon. So next year, this budget, we will end up having to be paying that off. Our intention right now is to take that from our other reserve accounts, just like we did for the entrance, and then pay ourselves back. That way we pay a smaller interest rate than what we pay to a bank. And we're also paying it to us instead of to somebody else. I think when I did my calculations and after we go through this today, I'll give you the sheet that shows that, but two things. LD1 does no longer exist. And which is good, a good thing, because how you calculate LD one every year was
Crazy.
crazy, yeah. And so you just had to plug numbers in that the state gave you and give you an estimate. So I put in a number here, but it's not based on what LD one used to be based on, because the state's not providing the information anymore, because LD one's going. So I based LD one in the chart I built on a 4% increase. I don't know if that's high or low. I also projected a 4% increase in the school. And what I anticipate is that we will end up, if we take some money out of surplus, like we normally do, at a lower rate than we have traditionally, we could actually come close to providing a zero increase. So the mill rate would not go up. Now, having said that, mill rate not going up, that may or may not mean that individual taxes don't go up. So, but the objective in my calculations for where the money comes from is to get us to the exact same mill rate we had last year. And I think it's doable. And at this point, for the last, I don't know, as long as I've been doing this, at this point in the process, I haven't been able to say that comfortably. We always had to shave stuff off and take more out of surplus and to get here. But I think this year we've got a good chance of doing that with this budget.
I can just add, I think, so we need to be absolutely clear that we have no control over the school budget.
Right.
And that assumption may or may not be.
Right.
Yeah, last year they gave us a surprise and actually decreased their budget, but no telling what it's gonna be this year,
Right.
especially with everything else.
And
that's
that-
going on, external forces.
And that's probably 3/4, if not more, of our tax, everybody's individual tax bill, so. We could cut ours in half and this, so.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
the revenue is missing from the main overall.
Yeah, I've got that. That's what I'll get to you later.
Questions? Budget committee?
I've got two, and if it's too complicated or too off point, just tell me. But why and how did LD one disappear?
I don't know, state decided to do away with LD one. And I think part of it was a lot of towns were telling them it didn't make any sense.
Oh, good.
Because it was originally put in to try to give towns a target to shoot for, to try to limit the amount of growth in towns. And to actually put the decision to increase your taxes in the hands of the town meeting. And so they came up with ways to calculate how much you should increase. Because you have to increase every year, because we give COLA every year. The value of homes go up so there's gotta be some increase every year. There's no way of having a zero budget. Year after years. So they tried to accommodate that, but they came up with a really horrendous calculation. That takes into a whole bunch of data that you don't get until they decide to give it to you, and here, you gotta base it on this year and that year and this information. It was, every year was difficult to calculate. Terry did a good job of doing that.
I
But
didn't
was
miss
still-
it this year, though.
Huh?
I didn't miss it.
Yeah, right.
I gather.
Yeah. So,
Thanks.
Well, I kind of morphed too from, in the beginning, everybody did it the same, and then it seems like every town and city did it a little differently. It almost became meaningless.
Terry taught me how to do it. Now I have a useless piece of information. So does that mean the warrant article that we always vote down is gonna go away?
Yeah, you don't need it. No need it. We have voted for it a couple times.
The other is an observation more than a question. If what I read in the papers is true and Trump manages to pull all the school funding from Maine, we're gonna have a big hole at it.
Yeah, that's what I
Well,
was
that's one of
saying.
the reasons I pointed out that 4% was.
Right.
Well,
And-
yeah,
And that's the outside forces, I was, exactly what I was talking about.
right, and I think the only way to deal with it is gonna be litigation, which as we all know is not speedy.
Well, there's another way to deal with it.
Well,
Well, no, I mean,
price is high.
I don't think it is, but anyway, that's something I don't think we need to discuss here.
We certainly aren't gonna change that here.
No, just to be mindful. of
It is.
Anything?
So how do we wanna do this? Do you wanna have the responsible party, whoever that might be, kind of run through it?
Yep.
And we already got some changes to talk about on the first item, which is administration, right?
We have to open the budget committee.
Oh,
Oh.
good point.
No,
Without objection.
That's how when you elect the chair, you don't work.
I think we do starting next time, but they had to open it because we didn't have any officer. I think,
Yeah, usually-
Right, and next time we,
and
yeah,
next time we will, right?
But that administrator usually actually opens the budget committee meeting before the
You
election.
think we're
of officers.
open?
What?
Since you elected a chair, I think it's.
we're open, okay, I'm just going by my notes from 2022. that we had 2 openings.
Terry enlightened us.
Well, one thing is gonna change in this budget already. Is Bill is retiring at the end of June. So his health benefit currently is budgeted at 22,617 because he gets a stipend because it's a long story, but he's been getting it for years. That will go down to a single premium paid out at 80% and the dental paid out at, I mean, health insurance at 90 and dental at 80, which would be 15,809. So that will be, make that line lower.
And that's the 22,662. Correct?
617.
617,
617.
22.
that's what you guys approved.
Are you in the select board line, Joe?
Of course not. Okay,
So that's gonna be what here?
15,809.
So does that? So that starts July 1st,
Correct.
and that will apply to his successor, whoever that might be.
Yes.
Okay.
He received the stipend because he'd been here X amount of years. You remember the
I
conversation?
remember.
Yep.
It's all my fault.
Yeah,
And whoever takes Phil's position, will he be paid the same amount? Do we just leave that amount in there? While we refigure what everyone's gonna do and not touch his wage now?
well, because we just learned about this morning. We haven't had much of a chance to talk about it, but
We can always,
I would leave it in as a placeholder for now, but we're struggling to fill positions, there's no
Yeah.
question about it, so.
do you want me to go down line by line or does someone have a
No,
question?
I would cover major changes, and I have a question right off the bat,
Okay,
which is the 56,000 for a town administrator competitive in the current market? What do you, I guess you're doing a lot of interviewing with.
it was an acceptable, and that's what you can see that on the previous round, we had 53,290. And after that, we interviewed a couple of people and then we changed it to 56, so.
Good luck.
But we're gonna have to open up for more interviews, so.
Well, that's a question I had, and we flagged that as something that we wanted to talk about, but I mean, we're not having any luck. And we did have a candidate who said it was acceptable, but then didn't take the job. So.
And And to be clear, though, she said it was not because of the money or because of
Or the benefits.
or the benefits. She was happy, although the number we had originally given her for the pay, she asked us to increase it, so that's what we basically we're changing 50 cents.
I think it's fair to say, people are knocking the doors down for these types of jobs nowadays, that's just too much grief. But I personally think it's not enough, but, yeah, the 56, but. We really haven't talked about it, and I'm willing to leave it be for now, and maybe we're gonna revisit all these anyways, right, as we get to the end, and.
Well,
Yeah, for Rachel's benefit, what we do in the first go through is we'll take a vote to preliminarily approve whatever we end up with. But then on Thursday, we do the real deal.
Hopefully late Wednesday.
Fingers crossed.
well, what about if we preliminarily approve a bigger number? Cause I think what I'm hearing, and it makes sense to me, is we're gonna have to, you get what you pay for in part. Except not with Terry, because she's worth lots more than we've ever paid her, but,
We're not getting
That
applications.
why don't we?
in doing that, as the budget committee, we're kind of crossing over out of our purview. Compensation belongs to the select board.
Oh, so,
We can
We can
advise
agree.
and suggest, I think
Okay.
I think it's inappropriate in the charter of the budget committee for us to change compensation. You veterans can argue
No,
against
I
that, but.
agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, but we could advise and suggest that we're hearing that you're gonna need more and we're in favor.
And we may end up having, but having said that, there's two things working on this that, one is, we've only interviewed 2 people. We're gonna interview more. We don't have a clue where this number is. It could be $100,000 or it could be 5,000. So we don't know. So coming up with a number to put in here would do 2 things. One is it would preempt that whole process of interviewing and negotiating. And it would also preempt the negotiations, because anybody who then sees what the budget has been set at, that's gonna be their target. And so, again, my recommendation is that we not attack that in this form.
Do we have any idea what neighboring towns
Yeah.
pay?
Unfortunately, all of the towns are different. We pay more than Owl's Head, but we don't pay as much as St. George. That's because they have a town manager, they don't have a town administrator. Owl's Head has neither a town administrator nor
I
a
thought
town.
they.
Also has a town.
Yeah, they just
They
recently
have
went
one
to
now.
Oh, I thought they said
The code enforcement officer took it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they shot down the town manager, but they did go to create a,
okay.
you don't need town meeting approval to create a town administrator. It's
But
not-
their town administrator is not the tax collector and the town clerk and the
Right.
treasurer.
Treasurer, so it's a very different kettle of fish.
Right, ethics.
No, I thought they actually voted that one down as well.
No,
But stand corrected, good.
Hmm.
So anyway, it's hard to compare apples to apples. You can pick any town that's anywhere close to us in Knox County, and every one of them has a different form of administration in the town office and different pay scales. It's a very difficult thing to pin down.
No, he answered it.
All right, keep it go, Terry.
So we're good with the salary and wages. Any questions about the benefits?
Straightforward calculation,
Except for the one, right?
except for the bill.
The paid main family leave act
Oh,
addition at the bottom.
yeah,
Um, well, everybody has their opinion about that, but that's a mandate that we have no control over.
Right.
it's just gonna kind of last like the other.
I think so too.
well, we also should know we added, no pun intended, a note taker.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
$2,000.
yeah, hopefully.
It's very, having sat in chairs like Terry's, and I mean, it's very difficult to participate in a meeting and take the minutes. And it's also burdensome, and we're hoping we can find somebody who would come in and take the select board minutes, or at least take them at a majority of them of the meetings. So we added that as well.
Question. You can't do that with a AI assistant, can
If you know how,
you? Yeah.
we're all ears.
Yeah.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it offline, I guess, but yeah, you can, if you record it, it will make a transcript. And it can turn it into notes for you.
Yeah, I'm doing
Except,
that on the academy board.
Yeah.
well, the Knox County Conservation Commission's quarterly meeting uses AI. And it's hysterically funny, but that is not a final product. It'll
It could get
remind
you,
you,
like,
it
it'll
will
get
remind
you
you of what you talked about.
most of the way
Some
there,
thinking
though.
human has to go through it and make sense of it.
Take the jokes out.
It's unbelievable. So
I hear you.
I don't think AI is ready to take us over.
But talk to Kate, because she's an expert in this.
But that's a thought,
Yeah.
and particularly as that technology gets better too.
Yes.
That's lovely.
Keep it going, Terry.
Any questions in contracted services?
Legal fees. The department head went up and you guys went down. You're comfortable with where you ended up?
Yeah, I am, I mean, I think part of it was the actuals this year, but a lot of that was attributable to Maine Coast Seafood.
Yeah.
And we got a $6,000 check from them for reimbursement of legal fees, which of course is not reflected in the expenses here. So, that was a complicated, successful mess, but.
Thank you, Terry.
That was fun.
Questions? Anyone? Jeweler?
Any questions on the dues, fees and travel?
Hearing none, keep it going.
Insurance. Here, we don't really have much say.
Right.
It is what it is, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Supplies,
Postage going up, I take it.
again, yeah. Equipment this year, we're replacing 2 computers. Phil's and Hannah's, or whoever those people may be. And we need to have Windows upgraded from Windows 10 to 11 on 5 computers.
How's Nick treating you? How's Nick treating you? Or Gus, rather?
Gus, good. Good, he had some health issues, but I think that's been pretty much taken care of, so. He comes when we need him.
He responds fairly quickly on the phone, so
Yes, he does.
I know when I got locked out that time.
And I did increase the lien costs because postage is going up. And you seem to have more 30-day notices and tax liens going out.
So the revised bottom line for admin,
Let's see, make sure I changed it up here. I have 262927.
do I hear a motion for preliminary approval of the admin budget.
So.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Derek. Who's building and grounds?
We got reval reserve.
Oh, reval reserve, right?
You want to introduce that, Terry, or you want me to, or?
I think I wasn't really involved in that when that was taking place, so.
Okay, well, we've signed a contract to conduct a reevaluation pending town meeting approval of the funds to fund it. And we are, when we get to the assessors area, you'll see an expense line up budgeted, but we're also line, what, 1172?
Yeah.
We're proposing. Sorry. Zero.
Yeah, we're not putting in.
Oh, that's right, because we're putting it in the budget, yeah.
And we're taking it out, we're actually gonna plan to take out of it.
So you'll be taking all of this,
Pretty
About
much.
half of it the first year, half of it the
so
second.
they're actually gonna start at 26.
Yes, we have to pay them the 10% down, and then they're going to bill us periodically. The estimate is that about half of it will be done in this budget and then half of it in the future budget, so we're splitting that.
But that's-
So,
that's-
just so you folks know, to help this process along. In theory, if everything else stayed equal, and everybody's reval went up. New valuation was the same, everybody would pay the same taxes. It's not the case that if your valuation doubles, that your taxes double. Because everybody's goes up, so. Of course, having said that, there will be differences. Some properties and classes of properties will go up higher percentage than other classes. And of course, everything else won't be equal, so. But I think it's important, because a lot of people are under the misconception that the valuation is directly proportional to the tax, so to speak, and that's not the case. And what was the other piece I was gonna say? Do we have what we have in the reserve, Terry?
It should be on the page, the reserve page on the left-hand column.
What you got is 118,612.
Yeah, okay, so that was what we have banked away. Currently in that reserve. And then when we get to the budget side, you'll see, I think it's 90-something thousand, correct? That was budgeted for that, so. Just kind of wanted to give everybody the big picture.
94,875.
Correct. And the reason we need to do this is for a couple of reasons. One, because it's fair. And, people are supposed to be taxed based on a fair market assessment of value, under the Maine Constitution. But the other reason is, we factored once, just a gross factor of what was it, 15%?
15 and then 25.
Yeah, actually, we factored twice, and it starts to get a little crazy. And if you don't keep up within, I think it's 90%, you start to lose your full reimbursement for exemptions. So it hurts the people who are actually homesteaders, people who live here year round, because they start losing a percentage of their homestead exemption and their veterans exemption if they have one in there. Whatever other there are, because the state requires that we stay close to 100%. And that our quality ratio is good, and that means that one class of property is not way out of sync with another class in terms of its valuation. As I always like to say, as long as everybody's treated equally unfairly. So,
Do you have to factor this year, or do you know yet?
We don't know, do we? I can't remember.
Yeah, we haven't discussed it, but I
I
suspect. that-
suspect we might.
Yeah, the last review we had of it kind of indicated that we're still going in the upward direction. Or the downward direction, yes, depending on how you look at it, so.
And we were kind of trying to hold off, thinking that the housing market, was very unstable and so we've been holding off for a couple of years, but it doesn't seem to be very unstable. It seems to be going in one direction, so.
Right.
So that's just a little background information.
Um,
And yeah, the
Building
real
ground.
reval's supposed to be done in time for the 2027, April 2027. Commitment.
So not next year's commitment, but the following year's commitment.
So, so what we're doing is we're putting money aside, like we did with the fire trucks and stuff like that.
We
Well,
have,
we're
put
not
money-
this year.
we have put money aside.
Okay, and now you're taking some out because you gotta pay forward for the 2027.
Yeah, because they're gonna start the work in August of this year, I
Oh.
think.
And what's that work, that they're going around to homes or? they're-
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah, they'll start off gathering our information. They'll do an outreach to the public
Mhm.
to say, here's what we're gonna be looking at. And then they'll evaluate every property in the town. And then update the database. And so that's gonna take them a good 2
And,
years.
and in this process, we're doing away with vision.
Correct.
Right now, we have two systems and we have to, it's kind of crazy. Because Vision Appraisal, who did our last reval, would only do it if they use their software. This company is gonna use the software that we actually use for all our accounting.
All of
and-
our other.
And all of our other accounting and stuff. And so we get rid of those two systems that we're starting to get a little out of whack. And there's room for error. Having said that, I personally don't think the Trio software, which we'll be moving to, is quite as user friendly as the Vision, but maybe they've made progress there from just a real estate agent or a customer coming in. Not quite as much information, it doesn't seem like, but
I don't know much about their
yeah,
package.
so. Trade-offs like everything else, you know.
So,
Our Trio is on premise. Yeah, yes, it's residing on your server.
So's Vision,
Yeah, have they encouraged you to go to their cloud?
yes, heavily.
And
Too many bugs still, people are
Really?
complaining about, people that have
Okay.
moved complaining. So,
And just so you know, we do not have the real estate. The tax real estate. Portion of Trio right now, so we're
so
gonna
they'll
have
have
to
to
get.
bring that, they'll have to lay that down on.
Right.
Yeah, we just input the data. Manually from. Vision, in order to generate the tax bills. Because the accounting system is tied to the tax bills. Correct. So it's a very cumbersome and labor intensive and prone for, I mean, you just gotta nick one key, the wrong number and. You've messed someone's tax bill up, you know, so.
so going forward, there will be a point, this is all can be done, the computer will do it.
Yes.
Well, you won't be, we'll eliminate that step.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
it'll all be on.
I'm not saying it's error proof, but.
Nothing human is there.
Right,
Yeah, I think the disadvantage historically is that Trio is not as user friendly for people who, right now you can go into, anybody can go into Vision. And look up a property either by name or by address or by map number and lot number. And you can get a visual on what it looks like and how much the taxes are and what.
A lot of
its value is.
detail.
A lot of detail. And real estate agents use it a lot. Up until now, Trio has not been that user friendly, so towns that use Trio end up fielding a lot of questions from the public, but more frequently from real estate agents who want information on the tax map information that right now they can get on Vision, they won't be able to get that in the future. So whether or not they fix that and going forward, I don't know the answer to that, but historically, Trio has not been good from that perspective.
Right, there's a suggestion, Terry,
Mhm.
or to your successor. Keep your eye on, the cloud version, because typically companies that have on-premise software and cloud software put the overwhelming majority of their new development and their
Oh,
development
we're on
resources
a
into
limited
the.
window.
What?
We're on a limited window.
Right.
I can stay with SQL. Like,
Okay,
maybe next year we'll have to change, or the year after.
So is there no vote since there's no commitment?
For the,
For the reserve.
Yeah, I don't think there is, because we
Yeah,
didn't.
there is
yeah.
none.
But it was on the agenda and I had forgotten that we had put 0 there, so. And that feeds in nicely to
building and grounds.
building, well, especially after, yeah, sorry, building and ground.
11.
Of which no one's in charge of.
So why is it down about $20,000 from last year?
Well, last year we did the fire alarm system for $19,000.
The boiler?
The boiler was the year before that.
Highlight, John? Or somebody?
Well, the mowing contract
Yeah, that's,
went up a lot. You'll see it more in the cemeteries than here. But, we lost our, our mower had I don't know, 5-year contract with us, and he just announced in April or something, or in March, that he wasn't gonna do it anymore, which we put out the bid, and we got one bid. I thought we were lucky to get any bids at that point. So that's up quite a bit. You'll see it more in the cemeteries.
So do we have some
last
last
year?
year?
Huh? We do, yeah, we got one. We got one, but
but it was significantly higher.
significantly more money. And if you don't mow the cemeteries, you do not want to sit on this board.
Oh.
And I think he did a pretty good job, wouldn't you say, Penny? Last year.
Was the best we've ever had.
So this was the new supplier
Yeah.
that did the best?
So that was the upside, I guess.
Curious on fuel oil for Guilford Butler. Why? I guess department heads is Penny is so much lower than the
Well,
select board.
That didn't come from Penny, that came from person that prepared the building and grounds budget for department heads.
Oh.
That's
So-
one of those glitches.
Yeah.
That I was referring to earlier,
I see, okay.
and we, I think, rectified that in the discussions we had.
Okay.
So that the 7662 is the rectification?
Yeah. But Sandra, you bring up a point that I was kind of half joking. We have Sand Salt Shed, we have this building that houses the administration, the fire department, the ambulance, we have Guilford Butler. And those are all municipal buildings, building and grounds, and other ground areas, and there's really no one in charge of that in a umbrella type situation. But we may do.
If we had a town. Manager,
Yeah.
town manager,
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, a perfect example was, we budgeted to do the alarm system.
Yeah.
And it was in the building and grounds budget, and David, the fire chief, didn't realize that it had passed. And just a couple of weeks ago, Terry says, "Are you gonna do that?" And he said, "Oh, I didn't even know I was supposed to be doing that."
Didn't know it was funded.
Didn't know it was funded, so, he had to, so he willingly scrambled to get a couple of quotes and stuff, but,
Hmm.
and then the town administrator does some, and I do some, and Penny does a lot. Penny, I did have a question. Do we need to do any, maybe you know this, maybe you don't. Do we need to do any maintenance on the solar panels? Is there,
I'm not. That I.
not that you've heard of?
No, then we might need to wash them if they get pollen covered or.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as you know, there's no
No.
service contract for $3,000 a year. Okay. I don't know, just popped into my head. Oh, are we supposed to do?
So is that, the dip here, reflective of the solar panels? Good job. Have any of the, converters broken? That's the point of failure that you should expect. The boxes that are in the back of the bottom of the panel.
That's what I was gonna ask. Does it have, cause the ones that we have, and we're like 4 off of the number that you guys have at the library. So we have almost the same system at our house. If something goes wrong on my computer, I can see, it will come up that something's wrong. But we weren't supposed to touch them, you know, like, hosing them down, like with. But even with snow, no, just watch them melt, go off. So, and so far, we've had them for 3 years and no maintenance.
Good. Well, I thought it was worth asking the question.
Oh, no, it's very much, but it should be, there, I would think there's some sort of warranty within
Yeah.
any of those things breaking and, you know, like. It's because they break, because anybody hit a ball and hit them.
Question, we talked about mowing increasing, but what about custodian? See that it's gone up quite a bit. Where's that increasing?
What line are you looking at?
Line 280. Custodian.
I know that there were 2 more hours per week added at Cook and Butler.
Oh. Yeah, this is. We've always had. Someone who. Kind of came in and cleaned a little bit. And now we have someone who comes in and really cleans. And we also are sending her down to Guilford Butler to assist Penny with cleaning because it's so busy there and it's been a lot for her. So that's why there's such a big increase. She's also cleaning better, more, and Guilford Butler.
Got it, thank you.
Actually, I have a question. I didn't know this before. So why do we have, mine saying, well, she was a contract. She's in the custodial business, right?
Mhm.
So she's not an employee.
Right.
Which is why it's under contracted services, but we still have money budgeted under wages.
Donna's still cleaning for us. She's gonna be fine.
What was that?
We still have Donna 1 day a week and we have Brenda 1 day a week.
Oh,
Yeah.
Guilford Butler.
Yes,
Okay, so Donna is still an employee. Cause she's not in the business, doesn't have insurance and so on and so
Correct.
forth. Okay, thank you. I didn't realize that.
and we had 9,400 visits last year, so. Frankly, it's probably, you know. 50% of my workload is keeping this place clean and safe for people to come into, and. We could do with. Daily cleaning and maintenance, no, because I don't think. that's in the budget, but this is what it's coming to when you have this kind of people going through a building.
Any questions, comments?
Just information question, I couldn't figure out on lines 324-25. It says town office PM. What is PM?
Preventative maintenance.
Thank you.
Which that needs to be done too, right?
Yeah, we talked to Jerry at the last meeting.
Last meeting, yeah.
And we gotta get the. Never mind. Thinking of stuff we need to do.
Okay, is there a motion for preliminary approval of this? I assume 73,954 is still the bottom line, nothing's changed.
So moved.
Second,
Any further discussion? All in favor? Building reserve.
Anybody want to explain 30,000?
Yeah, we're,
Should we not fund it last year?
right, we actually haven't funded it for a couple of years, I think, because we had it pretty much where we wanted it. But, and if you recall, I think it might even be in the building and ground budget, if you look at the department heads. 282 department head at 26,000 for a new generator. It was dying quicker than, we weren't gonna be able to wait till July. So we're taking money out of the reserve this year to replace the generator. Now we're putting money back in to cover that we took out.
That's this one out here, right? That was
It's been-
problematic.
It's been dead for a month now.
You know,
Well, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've probably got 1,500-1,600 bucks into trying to fix it.
Oh, more than that.
Yeah, was it? And it's old. That was done when Wayne was there way back. That's a while ago now.
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say you were replacing it altogether?
Mhm.
yes,
But the price. Correct me if I'm wrong, the price was conditioned on us accepting it within
Yeah, it was-
10 days, or it was gonna go up or something like that, like 8%.
correct.
So we.
Tied to tariffs. So we had to get
And
in.
so we jumped. And so we ended up taking it out of the budget and just, robbing Peter to pay Paul, so. to speak.
Any further discussion, questions? All in favor?
Nobody moved it.
Nobody moved.
Moved it, Linda second.
No, that was
that was the one
the
before,
building and grounds.
that was building and grounds, and building
Right.
reserves was a new
Ah,
thing.
you do vote.
So
Sorry.
I'll,
Just
So
so people
moved.
I can copy
Yeah.
it.
Second.
yeah, what
I'll
else?
swap your names on.
Make life easy.
All in favor?
No, you can say.
All right, assessors.
So
This is where the reval
Right.
shows up.
First year to rebound.
You have a total number?
The total is gonna be one
Open on it, reval.
for the rebound.
Yeah, this is only part, right?
Right, that's first year.
So double that or?
It'll be, no, not quite, 94,000, 95,000 the first year, 77.5 the second year.
Oh, yeah, that's assuming that.
Yeah, and again, that's assuming they do monthly invoices that are pretty much even.
We're not exactly sure how much is gonna get billed in this first fiscal year and how much in the second fiscal year, depends on what he gets done.
Right.
And the agent. There's a note about that. So you added Terry or somebody. Because of workload of factoring, is that how I interpret that?
Yes,
Well, we have a new
contract.
We have a new agent too. We technically have the same person. But was that this year?
No, that was last year.
Yeah. Was it? Well, Walter looks surprised, so.
Yeah.
We still have Kevin McCormick, but he went out on his own. Right, and so we, put it out to bid and he gave us a bid and the former company that employed Kevin and assigned him here gave us a bid. And we went with Kevin.
You went with Kevin, right?
People were comfortable with him and he knew the town well and his price was competitive, so.
So that. The next contract is still with Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rob always confused me.
What's factoring?
You just take a percentage out of the air.
The systematic.
You're trying to get to, a percentage of what the state says you should be valued at and what you're valued at. Close enough so you don't lose your reimbursements. So you just apply, say, for example, 15% across the board to everybody's value.
It's the thing that appears on the website in red under the,
Yeah.
assessing department.
It works pretty well the first year, but then when you factor on a factor and then factor on a factor, it starts to get.
Right. I have this vague recollection that there was we were not on the same page with the state on the formula, and it's like this is the flavor, it's not specific, but it's like, we were aiming for 90% and they were saying, no, you had to hit 91 or something like that.
I think it has, you have to be above 90%. To be
So at
able.
90 is not good enough.
Right, and at that point, you have to then verify that you still think the valuation should be at 100, which is why you can go to 91. If you hit 90, then we start to lose the exemptions, portions of the exemption to the amount that's up there, because we can if it says 91 on there, we can verify it at 100. We don't have to do anything.
They don't penalize us.
That's right, we just say, we consider it to be 100. And actually, we've been doing that for a while. So now it came in at like 85 or 87, I think. So we did 15 the first year and that got us within the 90, allowed us to verify at 100%. And then last year we had to do it again at 25%. So we went at 25, hoping that we wouldn't have to do it again this year, and the jury's still out on that, but there's a good chance we're gonna have to do it again this year.
Well, what the vacuum doesn't do is address the quality issues, the equity.
Oh, absolutely.
Because everybody goes up the same.
Yeah, and I think John and I are on the same boat, probably Sue as well. As long as we're close, they give us a quality rating. As long as our quality rating is good, I'm willing to add more factorings to get it. But as soon as that starts going askew, then we need to do a revalue. And so it's starting to go askew, and we're doing now, maybe the third year in a row, we might be doing factoring, so it's time to do a reeval.
Right.
Well, you kind of warned us last year.
Hmm,
You warned us at this meeting last year.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think we warned the year before as well,
Possibly,
but
but-
it may have gone to deaf ears, so.
Well, and again, I think we were hoping that the housing market might settle out a little, but again, you can't wait 15 years for it to
Right.
settle out.
Yeah.
When it was 2006, wasn't it, the last time?
Oh, it was a long time ago, yeah. And I think the state recommends you do them like every 10 years.
10 years,
or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when did we last do it?
2006, 2005,
That's right.
and it might have been based on data collected in 2004 beginning or something, you know?
And now, we had, at the time, we had an assessor's agent though, that after that was done, was doing, every year was doing a reeval, basically a mini reeval to try to keep everything in line. So, the assessor's agent can do that, can go out and say, I think this community, this portion, this neighborhood is affected. And so we'll raise those. And so he was doing mini reevals almost every year, is what he did every day.
But he also worked here full time.
But he worked here.
So,
Is there a cap on how much they can increase your taxes based on your income?
Your taxes should not affect your taxes. That's,
yeah. But the answer is no.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why should?
They
it
did
not affect
away-
your taxes?
They had that elderly program, last year, which they did away with last year.
yeah.
Because they realized it was gonna cost like
Yeah.
mega fortunes. Where you were taxed. Your tax bill was based on your previous year's tax bill and couldn't go up.
Right.
Even if you moved from a double wide in Millinocket to a coastal property in Portland, you still get the same tax bill, which was insane, but.
Well, the only reason, I mean, if we haven't done a revow in over a decade, people have been putting improvements into their house, so that's my
Yeah,
concern.
well, that's the other thing. This catches those improvements that should have had a building permit that should have been caught.
Yeah, improvements should be caught.
Yeah.
Should be caught. See, between the CEO and the tax, the assessor's agent, they should catch the bulk of those.
And they go inside your house and outside of your house?
Well, if you
You
let
don't.
them, if you don't let them, they'll make an assumption what's inside, and it usually is on the high side.
Right.
And then people will say, well, come in and look.
Yeah.
So you said it doesn't affect taxes, how is that possible?
Right, if you haven't made changes.
Well, it's been over a decade, everybody's probably made changes.
Well, except that we should be catching them.
The
But those should
decrease
have
in
been caught
value.
as it was going along. because
Right, we should
you
be
get a building
catching those anyway.
for-
I see,
Reeval
I see.
is not designed to catch those improvements. Reeval is actually designed to reassess your house in the market.
I see, okay.
And so if everybody's evaluation goes up,
Which I expect it will.
right,
So,
then the amount of your taxes are not based on how much your house is worth, it's how much the town spends and the Board of Education spends and the county spends. See, so that's what your taxes are gonna be. And how we divide it is based on your valuation. But if everybody's valuation goes up the same, then the amount we tax per your valuation just decreases to come out with the same number. So the mill rate should go down as your valuation goes up to give us the same tax number, tax bill. So it should not, theoretically, all things being equal,
Okay.
it should.
And which of course, all things are not.
Right, because what's gonna happen is, we are gonna catch some of those things that were done 5 years ago that we didn't know about. And we're also gonna find that this particular property has a really nice water view that maybe it didn't have before, or it wasn't.
Or the
caught
other way
before,
around.
Or the other way around. And
Proud of
so
my brother.
you'll see some houses, some valuations go up 30% and others go up 20%, 10%. So,
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing probably is if there are changes in classes of property.
Right. This,
So,
that
you know,
this should,
huh?
that this should.
Right, I mean, if, how do I put this, if you look at coastal property on Spruce Head Island, to say that increase in value 40%. And the Grissom Road, which is not on the coast and kind of inland and out there, and that increased at 10%, that will shift the taxes. I mean, theoretically, the Grissom Road bill should be less than it would have been, and Spruce Head Island more.
Which is what the last reval did, was
Oh, yeah.
address those, the major.
The waterfront.
The waterfront was being
Going up.
taxed.
And it is interesting though, if you look at the data the state has. It's almost the opposite right now.
This year, or
This year.
last year.
Yeah, last year, it was non-waterfront. Was selling for much higher than what we were appraising, for example, waterfront. So it's almost getting the other direction.
Everybody's afraid of flooding.
Huh?
People don't wanna be on.
People don't wanna be on
water.
water.
Well,
Nothing left on the
we've
water to buy.
we've had a bunch of houses or properties that have sold to folks who don't even see it. That they see it advertised and they offer double what the asking price is and they scoop up land all over the place. That's been happening here, it's been happening all over Maine, because and so you see those non-waterfront properties, maybe even with no house, that's selling for an extremely high amount. And that's what the state bases it on. They chase the sales, and we're not allowed to chase the sales.
But I do think that was an anomaly, that one year.
I do,
The general trend has been
the other way, yes, I agree. Good.
Have we drained the assessors? Then, can I have a motion to approve the assessor, preliminarily approve the assessor's budget at 137,753? Any discussion? All in favor? Limping along here, not even gonna get to fire and ambulance until Wednesday. It's not even done, is it?
And now we're to roads.
Oh, yeah, we've been.
Fire and ambulance is already.
I thought there was, oh, okay, I thought there was something missing in compensation there. Okay, town road.
No,
John.
yeah,
Pardon?
That's the one, debt service is the one we're missing.
yeah.
Okay.
Forward,
So, does our, interim uncompensated road commissioner have anything to say?
yes, I gotta find it 25.
Page 32. Thank
Okay, we keep $100 in there because I don't take any compensation, as Walter just said, but if I got off the select board. They'd wanna be able to put me on the payroll so I could be covered by workers' comp in case I lose my fingers putting a sign up. Wages is just something that I use, I have a helper sometimes, and I can get them. And he's already worked, more since I got back, and I anticipate there'll be more as the weather gets better now. Been doing a lot of culvert work, and, like to continue, we've replaced a lot of our cross road culverts. But there's a lot of driveway culverts out there that are really old and, need work. We've done a lot of ditching and berm removal, which is basically get the water off the road. And I'd like to continue that. Hayden Point needs it really bad. I don't know if anybody went down Hayden Point this winter, but it really took a beating, and I think the reason it did is the ditching and berms are holding the water near or under the road. I'm trying to do a major bushing limbing project on Westbrook Street. It needs it, a lot of complaints about it. So that's why that's up, but it isn't just Westbrook. I'd like to do some more on the Island Road and on, Hayden Point as well. Patching is basically buying patch, which is expensive. Roadside mowing and sweeping, we do it twice a year. Striping, I hope to restripe the center lines on Westbrook, Island Road and Waterman's Beach. Probably not the safety lines this year, which are the white lines. Under the actuals, you'll see a number that says 19,579. That's not quite accurate, right, isn't it? We spent 22 there or
20.
something.
Yeah, it was, the whole thing was 25 when I.
Some of that was
added
fire department and
Yeah.
some of it was the DEP permits.
Yeah.
Those were to repair those areas that took a severe beating in the January storms by McClun's. And by, the intersection of Island Road, right there, kind of in front of Huey Dunks Island Road and, Village Road. And hopefully, we're gonna get reimbursed that and more,
Yeah.
it looks like. That's pretty much it under contracted services. Workers' comp kinda is what insurance kinda is what it is. The 8 grand for culverts is for the culverts themselves. I like to try to buy them and have them delivered because you can get them delivered to nothing. Whereas if the installer goes and picks them up, he charges you to go pick them up. Sometimes, we have to do that in a pinch, but. And then we had a major increase in the snowplow contract. We put it out for bid. And we got one bid. And, can't remember what it was last year,
But it was significant.
yeah, the 168 is not done, right, Terry, isn't there? This is through March, so there's one more payment.
No.
No.
No, we should be done with them.
So the 168 is the year, whole year? I thought there was one more.
We pay in April, we pay November, December, January, February, March, April. Phil would
Well,
have already paid me, well, that's, yes, Phil did pay in April and
Yeah.
and that's not on here.
yeah, okay, I thought so. So the 168, so it didn't go from 168 to 217, but it went from one payment shy of 168 to 217, which is a big difference.
So
That's
Calip
it.
was the one bid.
He was.
How's the salt and sand thing working out?
I think fine.
Okay.
Gary Grissom, rest his soul, wouldn't think so, but I think, I mean, what does it matter? What grain of sand is,
He gave me a lot of bad hours about that.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine and it makes sense. It makes sense for St. George and if they're going down Grissom, I mean, first of all, it's in the contract that he salts and sands adequately. And by the looks of the roads, he does more than adequately, if you notice how much salt and sand there is on the road. And it makes no sense to be going down the Grissom Dennison Road. Stop, turn around, come back, and then go to St. George, load up sand and come back all the way to where you just stopped on the Dennison Road. I mean, it's just, he just goes right through and, it works fine, I think. Yeah, I wouldn't do that with just anybody. Personally.
Right. I agree.
Someone that we, have a relationship with and trust and I think he's not. I was afraid that if someone got it that wasn't Calic, that they would, one easy way to make money here is skimp on the salt and sand, but coming back, I didn't see evidence of that. I mean, it's all over the road, so.
We have a quality assurance resident right on, as far as salt and sand goes, that lets us know when we've gone astray.
The only complaint I ever get is on the hill coming up from Atwoods. But that's a tough spot.
Yeah. So paving.
I mean, complain about not enough salt and sand.
Oh, so. Yeah, go ahead, pave today, reserve tomorrow, that process has completely gone away
Pretty much, yeah.
for expediency, for very good reasons.
Yes, yes.
Will we get back to it ever?
I think so. We're starting to see us move kind of back to that.
So, committeemen, we had a process that, I think Jeff probably initiated in his prior.
Right.
We funded the paving reserve 1 year and then took from it the next to pave and then funded it. And that was very well balanced until we
Well,
didn't
until we
have
got
enough
to-
in the reserve to do all the road work that
Right,
needed to be
right.
done. So now
Cost
it's
of
in the
paving
budget.
went up and our roads started getting bad papers. And we got a new road commissioner too, that kind of.
Yeah, much more aggressive about
Paving,
it. Well,
paving maniac.
I will say this, all the experts tell me, it's cheaper to pay when they're just starting to deteriorate. Because once you start getting leaks and cracks, they go fast, so.
Well, Westbrook is really lovely to ride down.
No, Westbrook came, it held up well.
Mhm.
We spent a lot of money there, we did more than paving there, we
Yeah,
did the reclaim on those two bad sections. And, it was worth it, I mean. We spent a lot of money there, let's hope it holds up. Which is why it's still posted, all the other roads are down except for that in Hayden Point, but. You know, we spent over, well, with the reclaim and the paving. That's not separated, but.
Well, John, thank you for all the extra effort you have put into your interim uncompensated role in the town.
Now, if I could just get rid of this job.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Education, opportunities for education, no. Can I have a motion to preliminarily approve the road budget for 436? 016, did you so move?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Second.
Second, Rachel, Rachel second.
she's very quiet over here.
Learning.
Okay, Terry.
Okay.
60.
I'm trying to find it on my computer.
I was about finding the right page.
16.
Yeah, I know, but I got 3 different versions.
I know.
I keep
Me
flipping it.
too.
You gotta staple the old ones together and ignore them.
I gotta throw them away.
Yeah, I threw mine away today.
I can't throw them away, just staple them together.
I've got a few to take out.
Oh, I like to keep, because I make notes on them, and I wanna make sure we.
So I guess one of the biggest increases in this budget is the plumbing and local plumbing inspectors' wages. And what Terry has found is that as old septic systems are being replaced, he's doing more inspections, so he's spending a lot more time. And more people are actually getting internal plumbing permits, so he has to do those inspections. So in the last 6 months, he averaged 18 hours a month, which was an increase, so I upped that wage line to cover 18 hours a month.
Is he showing any signs of like moving to Florida or anything like that?
No, he's building a new house, so.
Ah, good, okay.
But he is busier and busier in St. George. so-
Yes, he is
Yeah.
busy. He is really busy.
And that's, I'm sure that has to be his priority.
Yeah, well, here's his main
That's
job.
his job.
This is his main job, yeah.
And I did add supplies this year, I want to order. They're basically chart holders, a lot of our charts are in the closet on a shelf, some of them are. In a file cabinet, I mean, they're just everywhere, so I've been trying to roll them up and label them, and this would give us a couple boxes to put them in that are made especially for charts.
How's your level of conflict with residents? They're wearing you out?
Nothing really one issue going on right now.
I'm always interested in the junkyard enforcement.
Yes, that's,
That's fallen by the way.
that is, that is. Well, what's gonna be one of my major plans for this spring, the spring's kind of gone sideways. But yes, as the snow's going away, you see that people have gotten slacker again, so I'll get back on them and send out more letters and. Spread a little hate and discontent.
That was a very nice email you sent to remind people that still owe their April 1st. Very kind.
You wouldn't think so if you heard the phone calls
No.
together.
Really?
We had a couple really, not very nice ones, but.
They thought the email was directed personally at them, they didn't realize it was. Went out on the big list.
You can't really tell that
Yeah,
No,
No,
by
you
the,
can't.
by, you can't tell that.
But that's
it's gone
supposed
a
to be
lot of
the
people.
idea, you know, so it's more of a personal
Yeah.
attack, but in this, I tried to convey that it was, you know. It could have gotten lost in the mail, our mail service is horrible,
Yeah,
so even though someone sent one in the mail and they say, oh, I mailed it, I'm fine, I want them to check in case they're not fine. Because they really don't like to have their name in the book,
yeah.
that's when I'll really be yelled at.
And I think the other thing too is the first of the month is always hard. Birthdays are hard, like, I don't know, it's just the first of the month, when I got that, I'm like, 1st of April, oh, that's right, it's actually past the 1st of April, not. So I think sometimes it's just nice to have a little reminder, oh yeah.
I thought it was very nice, but yeah. These two people didn't.
It did bring some money in, so. The few people that won't be in the book,
Is there a cutoff?
April 30th, because we have to print it for the town report. And we need to get the town report together, so that's the deadline.
Could send another note saying, if you're on this list but wanna get off it. Hey, I quit.
Then we used to do, if you.
Yes, if they,
It's paid.
yeah, there's a,
since paid,
yeah, there's a small window before I have to give it to Hannah for, that I can put, if you paid, I can put since paid or something, so they. Yeah, it's a very touchy subject.
times are hard for people.
I ended up in the book one, cause I own property in Thomaston and my bank paid the taxes in Thomaston, not here. They're supposed to pay them here, so I.
Yes.
And then you can end up in the book because you're late and you didn't pay the interest, and so you owe $5.36 or something.
Yes, because your payment goes towards interest first, so that $5 is really principal, so, yep.
All kinds of.
We had a
ways
few
to
of
get
those
tripped
last
up.
year.
We used to have a little can where. If there was like 20 cents.
Yeah, we do that, we do have a little,
Yeah. But at some point, you know.
Right.
It adds up, if it's,
Yeah.
you know, $4 here, $3.
yeah, no, we don't do it if it's over $1. It's on them.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Terry, thank you so much for the work you're doing.
You're welcome.
And can I have a motion for preliminary approval of CEO and plumbing inspector budget of 66,285?
So moved.
Thank you, Rachel. Any further discussion? All in favor? Planning board. straightforward.
Okay, paper, no taker, $15 less. $7 less.
Actually couldn't find one this year, could we?
Moira's doing it.
She is now?
Moira?
Yeah, she does a planning board. Minutes.
That's only $230 spent. She must have started late.
Yeah, she's only done. I think this, she just
Oh,
did
she
it.
goes because she's the alternate, is that right?
She started doing the minutes before she became the alternate.
She's done the select board minutes the last couple of times, I noticed, it's volunteer basis. Anybody want to volunteer, they're more than welcome to.
Volunteer. Oh, I thought you have a budget item for that.
Yeah.
It's not a volunteer.
Can't find you.
That was an interesting discussion, that you guys had the other night about the recusal.
Yeah, and I wanted that to be public. Because I just wanted to make sure that that person was aware.
We drift.
Yes. Okay, is there a motion to approve the planning board's budget of $2,721?
So moved.
In a second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
31. It's the page for streetlights.
31.
Thank you. How do you know these things so quickly, Sandra?
I write them down.
Oh, got them on our little sheet here, oh.
Sounds
Good, told you.
great lines.
But that's because you go down for that. Any clue.
I have to say, to my surprise, this has worked out very well.
Better, only because we got rid of them.
Right.
We got rid of the program, we got rid of them in the loop,
Oh, you got rid of the vendor.
yes.
Yeah, they were tough to deal with.
Yeah,
And we haven't had a lot of,
Oh.
someone hasn't gone around with a pellet gun and taken 10 of them out or something like
Oh.
that, so I mean, you know.
Has,
I'll probably
Think
jinx
about
it.
I was gonna say, you shouldn't bring that up.
have there been a lot of Headstrom calls though?
We've had one this year.
How, did they respond?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were great.
'Cause that was a, yeah, well, you were there.
Well, I think they didn't like
Slapped
you.
out Headstrom around.
They didn't like dealing with that company. That was, when I called and talked to them, they came right down the next day.
They're also, I know one of their employees fairly well, and their business has really dropped significantly in the past 6 months or so, or the year. I mean, I'm not saying,
Yeah, they were busy doing
yeah,
all
they
the
were
lights
really
for everybody.
over. According to him, they were really overbooked, and now it's kind of just back to crazy busy, not.
Okay, well,
That's probably not public information now that I think about it.
but do you still have the software that tells you when one burns out?
No,
No,
That all went away too, huh?
you
So you're,
have to rely on people coming in and saying, hey, the light by Edgar's out. And that was out and I called and they came down and fixed it.
but people tend to do that.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, oh yeah.
People like their streetlights.
Is there a motion to approve the streetlight budget of $3,500?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right.
Walter, I've been waiting 3 weeks to say that to you.
Oh, that makes me feel, makes me feel the 6 years were all worth it, John. Thank you.
Big conversation was like driving.
Well, that
Yeah, I
is on
remember.
15.
Yeah, well, when you cross Terry.
I was
You-
totally against that.
Yes, I know it.
Actually,
Okay.
I would just remind people that this is sort of a self-settling account. Any money spent here comes out of the boat excise reserve. So it doesn't impact the mill rate one way or another. And the big difference here is that one of the floats needs some pretty substantial work. I'll be totally honest with you, that 4,000 is kind of a stab in the dark. One of the black things that holds them up underneath is punctured and is leaking. We need to replace that. And a couple of the big timbers that go underneath are rotting and need to be replaced. They're out back. The one that needs work, they're both out back, but the one that needs work is upside down out back by the salt shed. And we're gonna dig into it shortly, and fortunately, I have a guy who lives across town from Joe Godfrey, who his business is marine wharf work and stuff, and he's volunteered to help me kind of fix it. So hopefully we'll get it done on the cheap and get it over by Memorial Day, but that's the big difference there. David Moore, his name is. They just moved into town. Interesting character. He worked on in Antarctica on maintenance on boats that did research or something.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. Wow. Actually, if you see his truck, it says Antart or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. So I take it that, if you guys had responded to the pleas for a harbor master, that would be in this budget, and it's not, is that?
He didn't show.
Okay.
And I don't think there would be any way we would be able to put it in this coming year.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the town landing budget of $8,206, keeping in mind that, well, thank you, Jeff.
Sorry, wait,
Wait,
you, then you?
All in favor? Well, we have drained today's agenda.
So
Do we want to be, oh, no, let's,
if you got time, I can
yeah,
talk a little bit about the right side of it is, and again, this is just like how much we pay people. Where we get the money from is a select board decision. But traditionally, over the years, we've asked for your coordination, I guess, on it. Most of it's pretty straightforward. The first column there on the right half of the page, anticipated is how much money we expect to bring in through the front office. Applied where that money is appropriately applied in some cases. In other cases, it's just, the rest is just divided up evenly. Grant money, you see those in red because we haven't gotten confirmation. This is what we anticipate to get in grant money from a program that the ambulance has gotten. They got it this year. And when they were approved for it, it was approved for this coming year as well. But as almost all grants right now are going through a wash, I've got it in red because we haven't seen the confirmation that we're getting that grant money. The next one is the excise taxes. So most of that is automobile excise taxes, and this is what we anticipate bringing in. And except for the town landing, the one that's in red, and that comes from the boat excise, so it just goes over to pay it. The reality is, last year, up to this point, but we're still probably gonna get some more in, but we haven't made enough to put additional money into the reserve account. for the boat excise. So we're spending almost all of it that comes in at the excise tax.
It's still a pretty good chunk of change in there, though.
Yeah, still. The reserves, and the only thing we're taking out of the reserves is the first tranche of the reeval. We're gonna take 55% basically in the first year, 45 the next year. And I was very cautious on the reserve or on the surplus line. Usually, traditionally, this has been over 100,000. Right now, I'm only willing to go up to about 65,000 for several reasons. One is I still don't know what the school budget's gonna come in, and I'm not as warm and fuzzy as I have traditionally been on what the school budget's gonna be because of the external factors. But the other part of it is I still don't have a good handle on this year, whether we're actually gonna generate a surplus. It's gonna be tight. Because traditionally at this point, I can see us underspending our budget and getting more revenue in than we had anticipated. I don't see that this year. I see us pretty close to straightforward. But the other thing is, for the first time since we've gone to the new calendar year, the new fiscal year from calendar, we had a couple of days where we had to delay payments because we just didn't have enough money to make payments. And that in my mind is the biggest reason for having a surplus, is to ensure that you have the funds to make those big ticket items. And the last several years, we've had no trouble getting through that. This year, there's been a couple of times where we've had to wait a day or two.
So, but you haven't done any TANs,
But yeah, we haven't done a TAN since we went to the new.
right?
Right, yeah, in the old days, we did it all the time, we borrowed money. But we anticipated that, we haven't done that.
A TAN is a tax anticipation note, for those who don't know.
So when we were approving budgets in March for the previous January to December and not getting paid until October, we were running out of money, and so every year we had to borrow money to pay our bills. And we haven't done that since we switched to the July to June.
And the April, October.
And the April, October, yeah, that helps a lot too.
What's the revenue risk? What are the revenue risks?
The grant money that's on here.
I think the excise could be if the tariffs impact car sales.
Yeah.
But I don't have a crystal ball on that.
Yeah.
But
Actually, that may work in our favor.
Why?
This year.
Yes,
Because people are gonna go out and buy cars before the tariffs hit.
Yeah,
yeah, I think the grant line is probably the only one that I think's at risk.
Ambulance
What-
on track?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Way ahead.
Is ambulance revenue on track?
Yes,
way
yes,
ahead.
way ahead. Yeah, and I have figured that in. I think that could even be higher than what we've got on here.
but their expenses are way ahead too.
Yeah.
Pardon?
I just don't get the word.
Ambulance, I'm sorry.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Ambulance
Yep.
billings.
But their expenses are way ahead too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And there's some good reasons for that we'll be discussing, I'm sure. Wednesday?
yeah,
I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
So you said that you don't think that we're gonna be able to fund the reserves this year, but there was a $30,000 line about funding one of these, I can't remember which one.
Oh, no, we're not taking money out of.
Oh, you're saying you're not taking money out of it?
Yeah, this right-hand
Okay.
side here, that's the funding.
Yes,
That's what pays the
That's-
left side, right?
okay,
Well, with that one exception.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
66,000.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so that's for the rebound.
So normally, and you can see it down in those figures down below on where I calculated out the mill rate and I showed the surplus. That normally I would feel pretty good about it. So last year, we should have ended the year at about $500,000 of surplus. And we should probably add to that a little over 200,000, almost 300,000. I don't feel as warm and fuzzy about that as I usually do. But having said that, even if we break even on the year and don't add to the surplus, we're still only, if we only take the 66,000 out of surplus, that's still just a little bit below 10%. That'll take us down to about 9%, 8.5. So I think worst case, typically we take out a surplus over 100,000, and then we have, when we actually do commit and make the mill rate, last year we added, I think, 120,000. No, an additional 60,000 last year. So we put in almost 200,000 from surplus to bring down the mill rate. I don't know if we're gonna have room to do that this year, but when we come to commitment, we'll have a better idea. We'll have some better numbers.
And as I would encourage as many of you who can be available to attend that meeting, just for the, we need to, among other things, be thinking of future leaders of running this operation.
I'm sorry, attending what meeting?
The commitment meeting, where they set the mill rate.
Which is when?
Well,
Like
after we get
July.
the school budget, then we get the
Which is roughly when?
July,
July.
August, late July, early
Late
August.
July.
The earlier the better, because the second week tax bills goes out, believe it or not, even though they're not due to October 1st, some people pay them, cash starts flowing, so.
So are you gonna be able to have it on Zoom?
We do, we have,
It's a select.
the last several years we have.
Because I'm likely to be out of town.
Well, it's not critical.
Well, well, you're gonna want to get us to get there.
Are we gonna wanna include this with our,
I would not, and that's why I provided it that way. I would not add it to the notes yet, because it's so soft right now.
so then should I take this whole section of my notes out there?
No, you can leave this. Leave the verbiage in.
I think the concern needs to be in the minutes.
Right, and that, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, on one side, there's concern only because I don't feel as strong as about the numbers this year as I have in the past. But the good side is, I do think that unless we see something really strange out of the school, we can anticipate with this budget a level we wouldn't increase taxes this year. So I think that's the positive message here.
Very positive.
Yeah.
But I wanna emphasize,
The
school is a wild.
The school, that's right.
And it's a huge piece of our budget.
Yeah.
I mean, our tax, not our budget, our tax. Yeah, it's probably 75%, maybe 80.
Right.
When you're talking about the schools, are you talking, like, is this because of exterior issues? Or
That's why I'm
you're,
Some of it.
concerned about it,
Okay.
but last year they came in with a negative number, which means this year, I'm not so sure that
with everything
they can sustain
potentially,
it.
I think their negative number came from a grant.
Right,
Right.
yeah, traditionally, 4% would be kind of a conservative
Mhm.
number, although I've seen it as high as 6.5.
And they're negotiating the.
But they're
teacher
just
contract right now, so-
Oh,
Including
yeah.
negotiations with the teachers that
Yeah.
I
Right
haven't
now.
been firmed
Yeah.
up yet.
Right.
And,
Yeah, that's why I keep thinking it's a volatile situation.
Yeah,
and I think that would be really, really hard because to even negotiate, because you don't know what's. Nothing's gonna come from federal.
Yeah.
Basically, we're gonna have to say, nothing is coming from federal, it's gonna have to all come from the state. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how it feels.
And I mean, the other side of that is that a lot of that federal money is tied to a position.
Yep.
that there are a lot of positions that are
It was higher.
only exist if that federal money is
Right.
there. Yeah, that's my wife is working.
Yeah, but there'd be a lot of pressure to keep it.
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree.
So the state budget. Which is passed, but they by one party.
Right.
It retains the 55% at the moment,
At the moment,
so that's a positive.
Yeah, except this district doesn't get anywhere near 55%.
I was gonna say, I don't think we
That's a
ever.
statewide average.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
Some
that's
districts
the
get
mandate.
90% from the state, and other districts get 2% from the state, you know?
Well, if you want more state money, move south. Move to Camp Elizabeth.
and have you guys got time for a couple of notes on future budget impacts?
Sure.
I do.
The and it's for this budget, the solid waste co-op has again set their budget at 0 increase, so that's 2 years in a row now. At the same time, the town of Cushing is exploring joining our 3-town to become a 4-town. That I think will decrease our share. The cost will go up to operate it because we'll have another 2,000 people using it. But their share of it would override that. So I think we'd end up with a.
Wow, is there capacity at the?
Yes.
To handle that?
We do have capacity to handle that, and we've looked at that pretty hard. I think we can do that. Now, at the same time, all of the towns are wrestling with and having issues with their burn pits or their stump dumps that aren't stump dumps. And Cushing doesn't have one. They've always relied on the town that they use currently for their transfer station. They use that stump dump, but if they leave that and come to us, they will need their own stump dump. So that right now there's discussion about whether or not we do one big stump dump. Where that would be, how we would do that. And so that could impact future budgets. The other thing is that St. George has floated a proposal to hire a Knox County Sheriff's deputy for our town, Owl's Head and theirs. We don't know how the sharing would be. We don't know if it would be based on number of hours that they work here, how many or the road miles that they, anyway, we haven't decided how it's gonna cost. I think right now, the going rate, if we did it, would be 140,000 for all 3 towns. Broken
Three, us, Owl's Head.
Yeah, St.
St.
George, St. George, Owl's Head. So, but we're my question to them was timing on this. And Owl's Head said, and St. George said that probably not gonna be this year. Because there's just not time to get in town meetings to make a decision. So meetings to come. But that's a future thing.
But having said that, we had a similar proposal. It wasn't a share thing, but it was to have a part-time dedicated deputy assigned to this town, and that was the most crowded town meeting we ever had, and it was shut down. And unbelievable.
And a couple of weeks later, or maybe a month or so later, the select board unilaterally decided to hire a deputy to fill in that gap.
No, that was before.
Now, it was after they were shut down, because they came in and told Ed Sleeper, we told you we don't want one. And quit hiring them.
I don't think, that's not bad.
Yeah, Ed's the one that hired him, so on his own. But anyway, so.
We can't consult with that, so.
Yeah. So the bottom line is that I'm not willing to support this or recommend this. I'm willing to put it in front of the town. but without a recommendation.
And I.
They also need more information.
Well, yeah,
A lot
before
more.
we put it in front of the town,
Right.
but we do, having the other side of the coin is we get a lot of complaints in the summer about speeding, reckless driving, lots, and so I personally, if there's a solution that would help this, I personally feel like, who am I to take that decision away from the townspeople? And so I agree with Jeff, I would be willing to put it on the warrant without a select board recommendation and let the floor argue it out. And then when people come in and complain 2 weeks later about someone speeding, we can say, were you at town meeting?
Well,
My cynical view of.
And I've got a similar feeling about the ambulance cost going up and about harbor masters. So that's, you will never see me push for either one of those issues.
How much does a harbor master cost?
That depends on how you do it,
Yeah.
but.
I mean, but it's a position, it's usually salary position.
But, I mean, the fishermen have, not recently, but they've made it.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
My apologies, but I have to,
That's it.
yeah,
if we're formally finished.
yeah, we are. Well, we're officially still in meeting, but you
I
certainly.
apologize, I'm so sorry. See you tomorrow.
We've flirted with this idea before and it has not gone over well. And my personal feeling is until the fishing, a significant amount of the fishing community comes here and demands we do something,
Right.
I'm not interested in taking that on again, so.
What was your comment about ambulance?
We tried to find a solution to the high cost of ambulance several years ago.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And the town said no.
Right.
We don't care how much it costs, we want our ambulance to be from here. Because we want to recognize the person that's standing over us when we're having a heart attack.
Yeah, so now we have 20-some people on.
You're not gonna
on
recognize them
ambulance
anyway.
staff, very few of which you'd recognize when.
Right.
Yeah, but we have so
And
few,
yet-
we have so few from our own town, and we have to
Right.
pay people to be here in the middle of the night as well as during the day.
Well,
We're getting into Thursdays.
our
Yeah, I know,
our
but,
coverage is better and, I
and,
think
and
we're-
so again, that's not an issue I'm gonna, until their pocketbook hurts more than the heart they wear on their sleeve,
So,
I knew both of the ones that came when I broke my ankle, because I used to go to the high school.
they came to visit me a while back, and I knew everyone.
If I'm lying naked, I'd rather have someone I don't know.
I just want
I
someone to show
agree.
up and that they're
That's true.
capable of doing what they need to do. I just wanna get the right feel for, so, people didn't want a sheriff, deputy sheriff, or?
No.
Well, I mean, I'm just money.
That's a shady cat.
I don't, no, I
We
think it
can
was,
take care of our.
I think it was money and
It was extremely cheap. We were going to join with the town of Owl's Head.
that was the ambulance, right?
Yeah.
No, that
No,
was.
Rockland was the.
That was, yeah,
Mm.
it was actually Owl's Head, Rockland and us for the ambulance.
Yeah.
But for the sheriff, we were actually gonna hire.
I thought it was just us.
Just us and Owl's Head,
I thought it was just us.
because we told Owl's
No.
Head no, and they voted it. They voted in favor of it, so they were really pissed that they could not. The first 3 years were paid for with a grant and.
Well,
And anyway, so, yeah, we don't need more police here, we can take care of our own. Was the sentiment.
and that's why we have speeding on.
Well, the other
One
sentiment,
31 and,
the other sentiment is, hey, we already pay a huge
Right.
amount to the county.
County for.
Okay.
We already pay a
Yes,
huge amount
that
of
is true,
county
that was-
coverage.
There was a
well,
lot.
Why-
you know, and that's what I wanted to understand, so like the feeling of double dipping or double paying or whatnot does kind of like, wait a second.
Yeah,
Yes.
because we're already paying for some,
It's
so
pretty
they
clear
reduce
last
time from
Okay.
that, because
Uh,
we're paying extra.
On the other hand, being on 131, where I live, that's a state road
Yeah.
or route. Cause I was told when the road was breaking up in front of my driveway, and I don't even know how to explain it, but anyway, oh no, that you can't call here, you have to call the state.
True.
Very different calling the state of Maine than calling the state of Massachusetts, just want you to know, much nicer calling the state of Maine.
You actually talk to a real person.
Yeah, so that worked out really well, but that's also the same thing as if you want signs. Or if you want something different, and one of the things that I started to realize is that you only see a speed sign as you cross the railroad tracks into South Thomas. And then you don't see another one until you're basically in the village, I think, of, I'm gonna say St. George, but you know, like you've
Yeah.
gone into St. George. Well, they get to our house and it's like, oh, well, this is free reign and let's fly. And, I'm gonna speak to Sandra afterwards, but we along. I don't know, somebody must know this, but there's a horse stable, home. It's set back from the road. You can see the. Anyway, I was walking, not a great road to walk on, but I was walking. And there is the remnants of a motor vehicle accident. Because there's a bumper and there's a license plate on that bumper and there's debris from this accident. And I'm going, yeah, because they get, and they speed around and it's like, we had an accident across the road from us. And we couldn't, you can't see. So I'm on 911 going, I can't tell you much of anything that's just happened. I can't, you can't see. People came, so everybody came that was supposed to come, and whoever was driving was fine, but it just like. There's part of me that would like area,
Right.
but at the same time, it's like, well, that's a state road, so I'm not sure that I would be counting on Knox County, not really. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It really is a conundrum, but I wanted to understand better, that's all.
Yeah.
Just-
I think what Knox County will tell you though is, yeah, you have coverage, but we have very
Limited.
little time to spend on traffic patrol. You know.
And the numbers, when you look at the size of the county and where the biggest counties are, which would be Warren.
Oh, biggest town.
Town,
Town,
yeah.
that's what I meant, that's what I meant.
Oh, good.
So that's where most of their time is spent. And they don't have 20 deputies on at a time.
No, we're struggling to keep ambulance people on.
So we get them here every once in a while, but I wouldn't say we're higher than.
But to that question, like having some signage put up to at least say, well, you're still supposed to be going 50 right here, not 75. You know what I mean?
That's because it's a nice, straight, wide road.
Yeah, oh yeah,
So
and
they
you can. But it's.
They fly.
And we just have somewhat of a rise. So coming out of our driveway is a little bit scary, so I've questioned that, but, but it's mainly, my husband and I both have decided that we're gonna see an awful accident. That didn't have to happen.
It's been a while since we've had the flashing speed limit trailer down this way, maybe
They offered it again.
maybe it needs to go on 131.
Yeah, I don't think you can put it, well, maybe.
If you wanna put it on our property, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, I don't wanna, that's why I said I'm not willing to do it, it's heavy, a lot of work, it's dangerous. Setting it up out there,
Get my mail.
I'm getting too old for that kind of stuff.
Well, if they can
It
put it
works.
on 73, we can put it on 131.
Yeah, that's true, yeah,
And I do.
yeah.
And it's worse in the, absolutely positively worse in the summer.
It's scary.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
We, attorney is on here, so we're gonna have to move this,
Move us around.
yeah, move you out and we're gonna make a motion.
Objection, I'm gonna adjourn the budget committee.
Well done.
I may be a little late tomorrow, I have a doctor's appointment, so if I am, Jeff, you can open the.
And it says 5 to 5.
Yeah.
But, I mean, maybe a little late.
Just clarify.
I would have been really late if it was 4.
Oh.
since it's not the quarter.
Then you said you wanted to talk.
Well, you talked about, we can move out of the way.
Yeah.
What about PDL 9?
Terry,
Lions.
did you say both Bill and?
Ukulele.
No.
Lions.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move we go into executive session pursuant to one MRSA 4056 echo to confer with our attorney.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Okay, hold on 1 second, Kristen, we're just cleaning up our budget committee here.